Well, it seems Trump accidentally made everyone female. I guess Matt Walsh finally has the answer to his question, what is a woman? So kudos there. But, I feel like trans masks are going to be sad, trans femmes are going to be really happy, and Republicans are now wondering if Donald Trump is actually the first female president, which is a hell of a question. Let's talk about this. So this is a part of January 20th executive order called Defending Women, etc., etc. I'm not going to get into the title. You can read it here. Now, the main headline from this executive order is saying that all people are the cells they are at conception, which in a study shown by Wiseman et al. Means that everyone is technically female because we don't see male presenting cells until 6 to 7 weeks after gestation begins. But that's not just what the bill does. Of course, that's one of the main catchy things. That's the haha, really funny joke. But this bill does have some serious side effects and some serious consequences that we should talk about. So, welcome to this episode of Love, Death, and Healthcare, Woke Gender Ideology, and Trump. Although if I'm going to have to talk about this, I'm definitely going to need something to drink first. So let's go into our very first ever signature cocktail of this episode. The cocktail, Oops, All Female. Let's start off with 500 milliliters of vodka, 2 tablespoons of Blue Curacao. Add some ice. I did this a little late. 50 milliliters of lime juice. Then we're adding the 150 milliliters of Grenadine to give it that nice purple color. Top it off with some sweet and sour mix. And then we're going to stir to mix it. And now we have the Oops All Female. Alrighty, cheers. That's definitely going to help. So this executive order is going after what Trump calls woke gender ideology. And this idea that this woke gender ideology is trying to replace sex with gender. Now, to understand the concepts in this video, we first need to understand what is sex versus what is gender. As you can see here, shown by multiple studies in both the US and outside the US, sex is normally defined as the biological characteristics that you have at birth, while gender is normally defined as something that is a social construct or what the person represents with or identifies with. Now, again, I can hear the commenters already typing, "This is woke gender ideology, brother. You see, they're trying to replace it." No. They're not trying to replace sex, as Trump says. They're not trying to diminish the standard of sex. What they're doing is they're allowing this idea of sex to be separate from this idea of gender. Something that has been, again, seen quite a bit in just science overall. One issue with this very rigid binary of gender, other than, of course, the idea that gender is more considered a spectrum in a lot of cultural contexts, is the idea of intersex people. Intersex people are defined by Cleveland Clinic as people who have genitals, chromosomes, or reproductive organs that don't fit into a male-female sex binary. Their genitals might not match the reproductive organisms, or they have other traits of both. Intersex people were not considered in, of course, this new executive order because this executive order was not one based in science. This executive order is specifically going after this political idea that leftists or scientists in general are trying to, in air quotes, trans the kids. That's not really how that works. One other consequence of this bill is the fact that trans people would need to be put into prisons that they had their sex or gender assigned at birth, meaning that people who look like this could potentially be in female prisons and people who look like this could potentially be in men's prisons. I don't see an issue with that, I guess. Oh no. But the other main part of this is it also denies them gender-affirming care. Now, of course, all Republicans love to spout off that they don't like gender-affirming care. Okay, let's take away gender-affirming care then. That means also testosterone replacement therapy, like Joe Rogan, Jeff Bezos, and a lot of other people use. Oh no. Yeah, they don't really like the idea of gender-affirming care, but they sure do love gender-affirming care when it works for them. Welcome to, all of politics. Now, you might be wondering who all this bill actually affects, because if you identify with the gender that you were assigned at birth, known as cisgender, then it doesn't really affect you, other than if you think Trump made everyone female, which is just a good joke, of course. But what this does affect is it does affect the 1.6 million individuals that are considered transgender in the United States. It affects the 1.2 million people considered non-binary in the United States, as well as it affects the population of intersex people within the United States. This precedent is something that I think is overstepping. Remember, growing up, we were always taught that Republicans were the government of small government. And oh boy, do I love my small government intervention. Of course, this bill is going somewhere. It's either going to be looking at removing these protections for people based on gender or sex-based discrimination, or it's going to be going in towards this idea of targeting gender-affirming care. As Republicans have mentioned, they don't like gender-affirming care. Gender-affirming care is, of course, used by people who don't identify with the gender that they are assigned at birth, or even sometimes by people who do. But the outcome of gender-affirming care has shown a remarkable decrease in depression and suicide in those individuals. Removing gender-affirming care, as well as removing the idea that people can identify with the gender they were not assigned at birth, is a dangerous topic. It will lead to deaths, which is something that people don't talk about enough. At the end of the day, this bill targets a marginalized community in the United States, one that has been the target of hate, discrimination, and other factors for the past couple of years. During this administration, we're not going to see marked improvement in how we treat transgender people, how we treat people who don't identify with the gender that they were assigned at birth. We're not going to see marked improvements in patients' healthcare going up, especially in areas of psychiatric medication, where you need to know the factors that are going into a patient's depression, a patient's anxiety, into the patient's suicide risk. These are things that are important, and research in areas of gender studies, research in areas of sex differences, and more apply to that. This bill is a spit in the face of the scientific community that has shown that gender and sex are different. Sex is not been changed. Sex has been a binary, other than, of course, intersex, which brings up some different issues that, of course, no one ever takes in consideration. But Trump is going after this woke gender ideology, not because it's an important thing in America, not because it's an issue, but because it's continuing to hate on marginalized communities that his voter base does not like. It's as simple as that. It doesn't really change the lives of his voter base. Egg prices are not going to go down because he says, look, we now have two genders, male and female. In fact, patient outcomes are not going to be improved by this. They ran on this platform of making America healthy again. This is a step in the opposite direction. This is going to make Americans have to go through more hoops and hurdles to get gender-affirming care, if they can even get gender-affirming care. This is going to lead to higher rates of depression and anxiety, which are health problems, and are problems that we as a country should be working to combat and working against. However, this is not it. And look, I'm biased here. Hello, yes, I'm gender fluid. What that means is I don't identify with the same gender every day. Yippee. But I thought that, most Republicans were taught Christian values. Christian values are loving thy neighbor as yourself. Christian values are empathy. They are not discriminated against the most marginalized people. Simple as that. This is a very downer ending, but there's not really much to go off of right now on hope for gender-affirming care for the next couple of years. Please, if you are someone who is trans, if you are someone who's non-binary, if you are someone who doesn't identify with the gender that you were assigned at birth, please find a support group of people to talk with. Please make sure that you start backstocking medications that might be important if you can. Make sure that, you take care of yourself. Because at the end of the day, while this bill doesn't care about you, you should. And people in your life do. So take care of yourself. It doesn't matter what some orange man who struggles with his own masculinity has to say about your gender. It's yours. It's your choice. It's your identity. And the idea of government stepping in and taking away your identity is one that a lot of people you would think would be against, until they wrap it in the package of they're transing the kids. It's woke gender ideology. Then they love the idea of taking identity away. But no. Don't touch the guns. Anyways, thank you very much. I am always Ava, and I hope you enjoyed this episode of Love, Death, and Healthcare. I am so far behind on all of the episodes. So thank you very much, and I will see you next time. I'm gonna finish off. Cheers.